All right, it looks like we are all set up and ready. We're going to be doing an interview. Hum is going to be interviewing Nitrofski on tasking, so take it away, guys.
All right, thank you so much. As Zick said, I am Hum, and it brings me great pleasure to interview a speedrunner, a really good friend, and for this specific interview, a tasser of the Spyro trilogy, Nitrofski. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. So we'll jump right into it. So I know, like the first time I've seen you task anything was 117, of course. It's one that you're very well known for. It's very well documented, and I love reading through it all the time. Was that the first thing you tasked, or do you have some experience that brought you into tasking before that?
So it's the first thing I really tasked from start to finish, but it's not the first time I tried my hand at tasking. So it turns out that before I even joined the Spyro community, I learned about this weird unorthodox concept that was tasking and that was able to create those amazing results. Specifically, I saw a SM64 task at the time. Obviously, like everyone starts with SM64 at some point. Anyway, I saw that and I was like, I want to try to task a BLJ. That did not go well at all. I gave up after 10 minutes. But the Spyro 3 117% test is really the one where I sat down, I was serious about the project, and really managed to go from start to finish and produce the result you saw.
It's fantastic, and it has quite a legacy. So that was the first thing that first project that you really put to work. You've done more since then. How has all that experience that you've had from that single task kind of moved into some of the other things that you've done after that?
So I can say with conviction that after just a few months of tasking, I was already a lot more proficient in getting things done quickly, but also getting things done better. And that was within the same project. When I look back at the task, I can see a significant improvement from the start of the task to the end of the task, as far as optimization goes, tricks, creativity goes, and things like that. And I have never stopped improving. Obviously, since the 117 test, I've also done the Spyro 3 any-person tests. And through that, I really improved a lot in just how deeply I'm willing to go to optimize things. And even recently with the Spyro 2 bingo project that we did for this event, I was able to improve again, not so much in how deeply I'm willing to go to optimize things, but how quickly I can work to produce something that is impressive and nice to watch.
Yeah. I think just to add to that, I watched you do a lot of the 117 tasks, and I think by the end of it, you could tell that your workflow on how you worked through these levels was, some of the best that I've seen, especially when you're doing it live and working with the chat at the same time. I've always been really impressed at how you've been able to work with all of these things at once. So that's really amazing. Do you think that kind of working with tasks has helped your skills as a player, because you are a very good speedrunner in your own right?
Yeah, I'll say TAS was definitely part of what made me what I am today. It was part of my path to improvement. So, like, with all the knowledge I gain with tasking, the deep knowledge about how Spyro moves, how the enemies moves, and things like that, really helped me put that into practice and become a better player thanks to that. Though I need to note that, like, there are players out there that are better than me that have never touched a task tool or anything like that. So it's definitely not part of the traditional way to improvement in speedrunning, but it definitely helped me. Like, I don't have any specific examples, but I can say, like, before I tested this, I didn't know anything about power jumping. I had a somewhat okay understanding of Spyro speeds in different states. And now that I know the specifics, I can adapt the movement to make sure I take the most out of everything I'm doing with Spyro.
Yeah, I'd be inclined to agree with you. I think, all of these games are very movement focused, but with any speedrun, knowledge is a lot of power, and just having that understanding of how certain things work, whether it's through doing a task which is a little bit, out of the ordinary, but it does work. I've done comparisons in the past, and that understanding of things can really help when you're actually doing runs. So I'm not surprised that that's the case for tasking as well. So I know the big one when it comes to 117 tasking, but are there any roadblocks that you've run into when tasking?
The major roadblocks are motivational roadblock. Testing is a lot of fun. I always have a good time when I test something if I manage to get some good progress out of it. Once you hit something like just slightly annoying, like having to repeat a level or having to do something that's just a little too difficult right now, that requires too many retries, it just kind of kills the motivation. And I sometimes have to just sit back, wait for a month, maybe two, and just try again later with a new outlook and get myself going again with, just renewed motivation.
Mm-hmm.
But like behind the motivational roadblock, there is always some other problems that are at the source of it, the other roadblocks. And like an example is during the 117 person test, I was stuck in Crystal Islands for a week, maybe more,
Yep.
just in the planning phase, just trying to come up with a route. And that really kind of bummed me because it was several streams where all I did was run around, try a few things, and like try to come up like with the solution to the puzzle. And what's really surprising about this is that at some point later, like maybe I stopped streaming for a week or something, came back to it, just tried again, and at the very start of that stream, like 15 minutes in, I was like, why did it take me so long to come up with this route? That's just the only route that makes sense, and it's not difficult to think about. And like, I'm kind of happy that I ended up finding it, but it's still like, considering how long it took for me to find it, that's kind of what are the motivational roadblock source I was talking about.
Yep. I mean, unfortunately, that is when I think of you actually planning the tasks. That is the level that I think of, because that's the one that I remember seeing a lot more once we got to the kind of end of the wire there. But I mean, everything did come out very well at the end. It's one of my favorites, and for it to be so entertaining for it's 2.5 hours or so, it's just fantastic. So you have some experience tasking Spyro 3 for a couple different things. You've done some work with Spyro 1. Have you done any with Spyro 2?
Spyro 2, basically before this year, I had never touched the game as far as testing goes. So as you mentioned, I did some work with Spyro 3. In fact, that's basically the only two main projects that I've released so far are Spyro 3 117% and Spyro 3 any% in partnership with Lapogne. I have done Spyro 1 any% route planning a lot, so I have kind of a good knowledge of Spyro 1 any% movement set, but unfortunately haven't really released anything because I'm still in the route planning phase. And Spyro 2, as I said, never really touched a game before this year. All I did this year is earlier on, I decided to try my hand at the any% start of the any% test, so just glimmer any%, managed to get something decent out of it. I also started work on a Spyro 2 100% test. Those who come to my channel know that I have a channel point reward, a very costly channel point reward for a Spyro 2 100% test. So I'm just slowly starting work on this to make sure that I keep up and don't end up like at some point 25 of my viewers just coming at the same time and dumping all their channel points into it, and then I have to like come up with a Spyro 2 task in a week. That wouldn't be realistic. So starting work on that. And well, of course, as a teaser to what's coming to the tomorrow in this event, there is a Spyro 2 bingo co-op blackout NG plus task. That's a lot of keywords, I know. But yeah, that's happening. That was basically the first Spyro 2 project I finished. And well, you can almost say that it's two project because, as you heard, there's kind of the co-op part of this. I'm gonna get to this later, I guess.
Yeah. So it's safe to say you have a lot of experience with tasking Spyro. What sort of advice do you have any advice for somebody that might want to pick up one of these games to try a project out, or maybe even in general?
So it's more about tasking in general, because that's what's really hard to get into.
Yeah.
When you try to start to task, it doesn't need to be something ambitious. I started with 117 not because I was like, okay, that's something that'll take me a while. No, that's not the way you think about this. You need to think of a category that you really care to see through, that you really care to see the result of hours and hours of labor to produce something as optimal as possible. So basically make it not too ambitious. Also, it doesn't need to be perfect. Tasking is about, yes, creating something that's better than real time. The best tasks are those that are fully optimized, but your first task shouldn't aim to end in perfection. Look at me, I'm still improving. Today, I'm sure that if I were to go back on the 117 task, I'd be able to save several minutes. If I were to go back on the any person test, I'm sure that I could save a few seconds through the whole thing by just optimizing things. So I'm still not doing anything perfect when it comes to testing. I never will. So it's just like you will improve. Your first project will be worse than the others. If you really care about the category, then later on, you'll find that you have time and motivation to go back to it and improve upon it. And it's a cycle and it's beautiful.
Great. Well, to wrap up, is there anything that we should expect from the bingo tasks without revealing too much?
Well, let's start by breaking down what the title says, right? So
Sure.
It says Spyro 2 Ripto's Rage. So far, not too much is special. Then it says something like co-op blackout bingo tasks. Those are a lot of keywords, and not all of them can make sense. So let's start with the task part. Well, that's what we've been talking about here. That's just creating a movie for playback that is as optimized as possible in the time frame that we're doing that I was given this time. Now, co-op blackout bingo. A bingo in speedrunning. You've seen one of them earlier. You will see another one tomorrow, obviously. It's basically you get given a 25 case grid, just like a normal bingo card, with each grid in the board has a specific task to complete, and the goal is to complete a subset of those tasks. So using normal bingo rules, that'll be clearing a row, a column, a diagonal, something like that. But this is not traditional bingo. This is a blackout bingo, where the goal is not to complete a subset of the tasks, it's to complete the full board. So you will see all 25 of those objectives being completed. But then it's also a co-op bingo task, or co-op blackout bingo task, which means there won't be one, but two tasks playing at the same time to complete the board that we're given. And on top of that, I guess the part that is not mentioned in the title but is worth mentioning is that we're going for NG+. NG+ here for us means that we will start with Fireball. Tassing is already impressive. Tassing with Fireball, I already had a bit of experience, but I have even more now. Like, you can do so many more things than you could otherwise. And like the difference between real time and tasks is especially even bigger when you add Fireball to the mix. So if you aren't excited yet, I hope this description will have given you a good taste for what's to come.
Oh, definitely. So yeah, everybody look forward to that happening tomorrow. There's going to be basically a human representation of that right before. So it's going to be with Wed and Rui. Not Red and Rui, as I might have said yesterday. And then immediately after that, we will see the task that was produced. And yeah, I'm really excited. It's going to be, I think it might be the highlight of the event for me. So that should wrap up our interview here. Do you see another question here. When are you finishing one any? Who put these questions together? I'm not asking that question. I'm gonna go to the staff and talk about that one. No. Anyway, thank you so much, Nitrof, for having a conversation with me. I'm very excited to see the task tomorrow.
Thank you for having me. Now we're just looking pretty, right?
Yeah, we're off.
All right. All right. Thank you very much to Hum and Nitrop for that awesome interview. Make sure to check those guys out. Nitrop's going to be in the Spyro Trilogy trifecta in a little bit, and also stay tuned. I'm really excited to see that task bingo tomorrow. So coming up next, we are going to be having, we're switching gears. We're going to be seeing Spyro Reignited Trilogy, Spyro to 100%. It's going to be really exciting. That's going to be done by Dr. House. Dr. House is really great at the Reignited Trilogy, does some amazing runs, and I'm sure he's going to kill it here with 100%. If you haven't seen a Reignited Spyro 200% run, it's pretty interesting. It's definitely really interesting. You're in for a treat.